So welcome to our presentation today from the NOAD Anti-Scam Task Force. Let me just get rid of that. Yes, here at the wonderful NOAD Senior Centre. Let me introduce the members of the task force. Here we have Kathleen Rooney, she's our chairperson and representing the Council on Ageing. Next we have Amanda Grow, she's the select woman representing the Board of Selectmen. Then we have Amy Sobchuk and Peter Ishkanyan representing One Local Bank. Then we have Darshana Merchant representing Moral Memorial Library, and we have Ryan Sinclair, detective, representing the NOAD Police Department. I'm Dee Carney, and I'm also representing the Council on Ageing. Without us here today is Chris Davis, and she represents the Friends of the Council on Ageing on the task force. So what we will be presenting to you today is really the types of scams that are out there, who's being scammed, how they're being scammed, how to protect yourself. We also are going to encourage everybody here in the room, everybody at home, your neighbours, your friends, your family, to report the scams, no matter how big or how small. And another big task of the task force is to diminish the stigma and embarrassment attached to being scammed, because really the scammers are experts. They're relentless and it's their job. So when they get one of us, it's at a particular moment in our lives, and really it's not your fault. We do encourage participation, but if you wouldn't mind keeping your questions and your stories until the last speaker, and then the floor is open to everyone and anyone that needs to talk to us, tell anything. We'll be available afterwards also if you want to just speak privately to any member of the task force. And then two things I want to mention. On your tables, you have one of these. It's a questionnaire that we set up for the task force, and filling this out is so helpful to us. It gives us a lot of information. Even, if you were nearly scammed, stop a scam, know someone that was scammed. Every question on this is an important question for us, and so any amount of detail and information will be great. You've got pens there as well. And then finally, just to mention that the Senior Centre on Tuesday, May the 20th, we're going to have a shredding day. So this is a good way to stop the scammers getting into your rubbish bags, any posts that you're throwing out. Gather up the documents that you no longer need to be around your house, anything that you don't trust, putting it into your rubbish bags and out for the bin people. Shredding day is Tuesday, May the 20th, and it's from 10 to 1 o'clock here in the car park. Okay, so I'll hand you over to Kathleen. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you all for coming today. My role in this presentation is just to give you an overview of the task force, let you know what we've accomplished so far and what we plan to do in the future. So the task force began in June of 2022 when Tony Mizuko, our town manager, put together this task force with the purpose of trying to figure out how to protect our senior residents from scams. So we did some research, we attended some trainings, and we soon learned that it wasn't just our seniors that were being scammed. Anybody is a potential victim of a scammer. So the first thing we did was we created a logo, and any of our literature that we put out on our website or anything has our logo on it so that you know that that's coming from us. The next thing we did was we put together a postcard that we sent out. Hopefully you got one. It was in right around the holidays of the end of 2022. We sent it to all Norwood households, and it was reminding people that businesses aren't going to ask for payment in gift cards. That's a good time of year when a lot of the scammers are trying to get your money and asking you to buy gift cards because you were delinquent on a bill, or your family member is in trouble or something. All right. So then we created our brochure, which everyone has a copy, and I will go through that in a few minutes. And we created an email address so that people can email if you have questions. It's not monitored 24/7, so if you think that you're actively being scammed, please call the non-emergency line of the Norwood Police Department, and we will have that number up shortly. Okay? That was our first year. Our second year, we started off setting up a booth at Norwood Day. We met a lot of people, we handed out a lot of literature, and we got our name out there. Then we developed our web page, so that can be accessed through the Town of Norwood website. It's also linked from the police department, the library, and the senior center. And that web page has resources on it so that if you have questions you can look into. They're legitimate resources. It has our brochure, and we update it when we hear of new scams that are happening in the area. Morrill Memorial Library set up a corner in the library. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a corner devoted to scam literature. So Darshana did that for us, and it's really has a lot of information. Then we did our first round of Scams 101 presentations. We did it at the library, at the senior center, and at Benchmark Senior Living. This is an updated version as we learn more and things change. So if you attended the first one, you'll see changes in this one. And then we translated our brochure into 4 languages: Haitian Creole, Arabic, Portuguese, and Spanish. Okay? We're now in year 3, and we took the brochures that we translated and we distributed them to Norwood's new arrivals. And we are now in the middle of doing our presentations. And we've also reached out to community leaders who advocate for our residents who speak multiple languages so that we can try and do a presentation with them and hand out our brochures so that they will hopefully not get scammed out of money. In the future, we are looking into putting together a presentation on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So that's a big thing right now, and we want to make you aware of that. So look for that in the future. So this is our Norwood Anti-Scam Task Force brochure. The first page just talks about who we are and websites to visit for more information. When you open it up, you'll see an overview of a scam. So this brochure is designed to give a broad overview of scams, because what we found was it was not going to be helpful to list all scams and all different scams and what they could be saying, because at the time that we were going to print our brochure, there were 80 different scams identified in the United States. And right before we went to print it, somebody came up with a new scam that wasn't anything like our other one. So we knew that the brochure would be out of date before we put it to print. So we did some focus groups. We created a new brochure. So we found that all scams have similar characteristics. So we decided to create a brochure around those characteristics so that you could spot them, and with the hope that if you spot them early enough, that maybe you won't get scammed, okay? And then, so how do scammers find you? Well, the people that are scamming are not just someone sitting in their basement just picking up, putting in phone numbers hoping that it's a real one. These are sophisticated corporations, and they steal a lot of money from people, so they have a lot of money to buy all the up-to-date computer equipment. So they'll buy lists of your cell phone numbers, your home numbers, your street addresses, your email addresses, and then they have computer software that will change their number to something that you may be familiar with, a local bank, a local utility company. So when you have your caller ID, when you go to answer, you think, oh, this is maybe my bank calling me, but it's not. And they can do the same thing with email addresses. They can change it just a little bit to you think it's coming from somebody in your address book, but it really isn't, okay? So that's one way that they will get you. And then if you open up the brochure, well, what do scammers say? It's really not so much what they say, it's how they say it. They talk very quickly. Sometimes they're yelling. Sometimes it's an email, it's all capitals, so it's like they want you to act urgently. They want to catch you off guard so that you act very quickly without even thinking. And there might be one thing that they say that has a little bit of truth in your situation, and so you think, okay, well, maybe I didn't pay that bill, or maybe I didn't, maybe my family member is in trouble. okay? But, you know, please don't give them any information. Let's see. And how can you prevent being scammed? Just, if you think you're in the middle of a scam, if you picked up the phone by mistake, just take a minute, take a second, take a deep breath, and just stop, and then think to yourself, did I miss paying that bill? No, I paid that. Or do I have a nephew, Johnny? No, Johnny, I just saw him yesterday. He's not down in South Carolina, you know, in trouble with something. So I think if you can just stop for a minute, hit pause basically, because they're talking so fast and want you to act so quickly that if you can just take a step back and listen, and then just hang up the phone, delete the email, throw out the flyer that says you need a new roof. Whether you need a new roof or not, you can do your own research and talk to your family members, okay, and find a company that is legitimate, not someone that's just, you know, walking down the street and handing out flyers who will come and start the work and then not finish it. That's what they do. And the back of the brochure just says, you know, it's okay to, oh, sorry, I should have been clicking on this. It's okay to not answer the phone, or to not click on that link in the computer, or not answer that email, okay? So, so that's basically our brochure and how the task force got started and what we plan to do in the future. So now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Amy Sobchak from One Local Bank.
Hi, good afternoon, and thanks for having us here. We're just going to go over a few ways that scammers are able to connect with you. Unfortunately, it's easier than we think. They can get you a number of ways. Here are just a few of the most popular ways that they connect with you, either through email, phone, text messages, or what's considered a pop-up. It's very easy to be taken in by these scams, and we're going to show you a few things that hopefully will help you protect yourself. The first way they connect is either through email or text. They send emails or text impersonating a legitimate business, oftentimes a technology company or a credit card company or even your bank. This is a tactic called phishing. These emails are designed to trick you. They're designed to look like a legitimate email, and they are looking to get you to divulge personal information so that the scammer can actually access your account. Another way they get you is just a phone call. A new thing that they can do is spoof. They mask the phone number that they're calling for so that it looks like it's coming from Norwood Senior Center or it's coming from One Local Bank. And unfortunately, it isn't. So sometimes it's just best to let a phone call go to voicemail, especially if you're not expecting that phone call. If you haven't called and initiated a call to the bank or to a credit card company, there's really no reason that they'd be calling you other than to try to, either a scam or to try to sell you something. The last one is a rather alarming one. It's a pop-up scam. Sometimes you'd be on Google or, you know, looking up something on the internet, and while you're browsing through things, you'll get this pop-up that's a warning saying, you know, somehow your computer has been infected, you have a virus, and now you need to call this phone number, or they have you click a link and it brings you to a website that now they're able to either download something onto your computer, or they talk directly with you and convince you to do, you know, give them private information. So some of the red flags, whether it's phishing, spoofing, or a pop-up scam, the messages usually contain, as Kathleen said, a number of red flags. They're asking you to click a link, they're asking you to open an attachment, and then through that they're asking for personal information. They do this because this is a way that they can often introduce a virus into your computer, or that they can convince you to give them some sort of information. They often use fear-inducing language. as Kathleen said, the phone calls that you get that somebody's in trouble, those are, somebody out of the blue isn't going to call you and say that. It's going to be one of your relatives, your child, or somebody else. They're really adding pressure to you when they talk to you, or when they're texting with you or emailing. They're just really trying to make you log in and to give them information by making you concerned and unsettled. And also, one of the best things to do is either don't answer the phone or delete your email or text. It's okay. If it's an important thing, the right people will get in touch with you, and you won't have to be worried about that deleted email. Another thing that's happened recently, and we all heard about it on the news, is the check theft, the check fraud. We see a lot of it on the news with people, post offices and postal workers being, robbed and things like that. What they're doing is they're trying to get checks, aside from trying to get any sort of gift cards in the mail. So what they're trying to do is get their checks, and what happens is they alter the checks. The scammers will alter the check. They'll either change the payee line or the amount of money, and they negotiate it at a bank and they get the money. Sometimes they use the checks as a counterfeit, and they make new checks out of it, and then they try to pay a bill or pay somebody out of your account in hopes that it doesn't get caught up by the bank. And then lastly, people just steal the checks and fraudulently sign them and deposit them or cash them at banks. So one of the things that if you find that you've had a check stolen, you need to let your bank know immediately, whether it's one local or whatever bank you utilize, because it's really important that we stop that from happening. Sometimes we can get your money back as long as we know that it's there, quick enough. Some things you can do to stop check theft also is to protect yourself from check theft. You can use a bold security ink. We did bring some pens that are not fraud pens, but they're an example of a darker ink that you can use to help make it less likely that you can wash the check from, the scammers can use the chemicals to wash the check. Try to be careful when you mail checks. Go to the post office, use the mailboxes either right outside of the post office or go into the post office. Make sure, check your statements. Make sure that the checks that you've written actually clear, and they're actually cleared to the person that you've written them for and in the right amount. Another thing you can do is sign up for free delivery through the United States Post Office. You can go online and you'll actually get an email every day that shows you what mail is getting delivered to you, so that you'll know if you don't get that mail, if somebody's stolen something from your mailbox. Also, when you write a check, try not to put too much information on it, only what's required. I remember back in the days when you'd write a lot of checks at the grocery store, they'd want all sorts of information. Try not to do that anymore. That the more information you give on a check, if it does get intercepted by a scammer, they just get more of your personal information. So it's best to try to limit some of that. And then again, just review your bank statements, and if you feel like you need somebody else to look at it, get one of your relatives or a trusted family member or friend to help you go through them. There's nothing wrong with being extra careful. If for some reason you think you've sent money to a scammer, you need to call whatever company has issued the thing. So if you think that you have a check that was fraudulently taken, you should call your bank. You should call a credit card company if you think they've gotten into your credit card accounts. If you wire money, you should call your bank. If you've got gift cards, if you've bought gift cards and you think that you've given them to a scammer, you should try to call the gift card company to see if they can stop that from being used. And money transfer, such as Venmo or things like that, you can try to get your money back. It's a little bit more difficult with that. If you do get scammed and you come to a bank, we're going to ask you some questions. we're not asking to be nosy. We're really asking to try to make sure that we have the right information, to try to figure out what happened, to make sure that we can try to get your money back for you or to prevent you from giving money to somebody. Scammers often want cash. Once they get it, it's theirs. It's hard to get back, so that's why they want you to take deposits out and send it via crypto or buying gift cards. Remember that, you know, you're not going to pay, as Kathleen said, you're not going to pay for a debt. You're not going to pay a utility bill with a gift card. You're not going to pay a utility bill with cryptocurrency. You're not going to get somebody out of jail with cryptocurrency. So really try to stop and think about what somebody is asking you to do before you put your money into a machine or send gift cards off or give somebody the gift card numbers. And just really take your time. Trust your gut. If you think it's wrong or you think it feels funny, it probably is. Talk to somebody, you know, the bank, the senior center, even the police. They're all very willing to talk and try to talk this through with you. And as I said, this is just a reminder. And be very careful with your statements and your personal information. Take advantage of shred days. They're very good to get rid of important information. Don't throw them out in the trash, because scammers are smart. They can take advantage and they will do whatever they can to get free money from anybody. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Amanda Groh, who is on the Board of Selectmen here, and Norwood, the chairwoman of the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. So one of the things we also wanted to help people understand when it comes to scams is both the scope of the problem and what's the result of doing all of this reporting. And so for us, what the reporting does is it helps us continue to refine not just law enforcement's approaches to protecting residents or to running down scammers, but also allowing this task force to adapt our techniques as we sort of see the big picture of how it's playing out as a result of everyone coming forward and reporting. That's why we've been very focused on reducing stigma, to allow people to talk about the scams they've experienced, to come forward with their stories, to contact the police, because we don't want anyone to feel like, oh no, because I fell for it, that I should be ashamed. You should not. You should definitely talk. The only way we're going to be able to protect the community is if the community is always talking and looking out for each other. So you can see a little line graph here on the right. And this is the data, when you're reporting scams, this rolls up to the FTC. And the FTC takes in that information, quantifies it, classifies it, breaks out the kinds of scams, what territories are scams happening in. It lets us understand a lot about how scams are playing out. And so what's really concerning is you'll notice, especially with the red line there, which is the amount of losses, which is, how often are people losing money? You'll notice that line is going up and to the right, right? That's a bad trend. And unfortunately, you'll notice that around 2021, the reporting sort of flattened off. And we noticed a trend where people were being tricked with scams that would sometimes cause them to feel very vulnerable or very embarrassed. Things like romance scams, where someone tries to coerce them through a faux romantic relationship, and then they would feel pressure to go along with it, but then also feel extremely embarrassed about it afterwards. And so we noticed that people sort of stopped talking about what was happening because they were embarrassed. But yet the losses continue to go up and to the right. And what's also really bad in this chart is you'll notice that the axis in the chart on the left and on the right, the reports are only in the millions, but the losses are in the billions. And so that just tells you the scale of how bad this is, not just in our community, but all over. So it's really going to take an effort from all of us together to do something. So we've looked into the FTC data as they aggregated this together, as we sort of tried to decide how do we want to approach the problem. We've learned a couple of different things, and we keep this updated as we check back on their data. This is from the end of 2024. We noticed that the top 3 categories of what the scammers were trying to scam about tended to be credit bureaus, identity theft, and imposter scams. although identity theft and imposter scams has been sort of trading back and forth these last 3 years. But those are usually our top three. About 1 in 5 people will lose money to a scam, so that tells you how common this is. If you've ever been affected by this, you're not alone. We also notice this was a very particularly interesting trend, which is the fact that beyond seniors, young people are also targeted. And what's interesting is that they tend to be targeted and fall for the scams with more frequency, but the amount of loss that they experience tends to be smaller. Whereas with seniors, they might not get caught as often, but the result could be more devastating, right? They're trying to come after somebody's, financial livelihood. With the young people, they tended to try to trick them into little tiny lottery scams. Although we have been seeing increasing trends in younger people now getting taken in for investment scams, and that's a place where a young person could get significant losses. And so you can see the median loss for elder members of the community could be as high as $1,600. In terms of the way scammers work, like we mentioned earlier, they have a lot of practice and a lot of resources. And that means that they can tailor their scams for the person that they're coming after. And so with younger people, they'll tend to try to get them to participate in investment scams, trick them into job opportunities that aren't real to get them to give a lot of personal information and money. And then they also tend to target young people through social media and websites. Whereas with seniors, they tend to try to focus on things like tech support scams, pretending to be a business, or romance scams. And then they will tend to target more through phone calls and through email. And so these scammers are always trying to adapt to see what's the best way to try to reach you. So there's about 2 million national fraud reports, and we knew that at the state level we had about 96,000, and then we had in our greater Boston and New England region we had 59,000. But in the early days of our scam task force, we were like, well, how many is Norwood having? And so we felt that it would be important for us to understand how much is Norwood getting scammed so that we can measure ourselves against the wider regions to say, is it happening more? Is it happening less? Is it always the same topics? Is there something different in Norwood that maybe we're seeing different kinds of scams? And so that was a big area of focus for us. And so there's a couple different ways you can do this, and one of my approaches was, let's use math. Even if I don't have every single solitary scam report, because not everyone is willing to come forward, because we're still continuing to work on the stigma, we can calculate what we would expect to see in the community based on the data that we have at the state, the regional, and the national level. And so, for example, we can pick any type of scam and say, look, if we're seeing this much scamming, let's see, this one is on the impersonation rates, for example. If we know local, national, federal, all the different ranges of impersonation rates, we can calculate that we should see between 12 and 37 reports in Norwood. And as you can see here, in that time period, we had 14, which is right in the projected range, maybe a little on the low side. For us, that low side is very often part of that, this is only what we hear about, right? This isn't truly what happened, this is only what we know. And we all know the survivor's fallacy. If you only focus on what you know, then you might miss out on important things that are actually happening. And so we're going to now focus a little more closely. I'm going to turn it over to the detective to tell you more details about things that are happening at the local level in terms of scams.
Good afternoon, I'm Detective Sinclair with the Norwood Police. So right up here, as you see, fraud by the numbers, this is for last year and maybe into January of this year. So approximate losses to really any type of scam, all the ones that we've talked about here, was about 1.15 million. This only includes situations where someone actually lost money and they're not getting it back. Situations where the victim acted quickly and the bank was able to interject and save that money is not even included. So as you can imagine, that number is even higher for at least the attempted scams. Cryptocurrency accounted for about 550,000 of that. And the largest single loss was $326,000 from one person. That was also cryptocurrency. 17 businesses targeted. Scammers acted as law enforcement, as managers, employers. and a lot of gift card scams as well, as we've talked about earlier. So there is a lot of money being lost. These are all people in Norwood. These are your neighbors, people sitting here. So don't think it can't happen to you, because it can, and it may even. So if you do find yourself in a scam, the best thing you can do is call us right away. We're not going to be bothered by it. I've had people tell me that they didn't want to bother us. It's what we get paid to do. So we're going to come. We're going to help you out. We've had people on the phone with a scammer and on the phone with the police at the same time, and we'll come down, we'll listen to the phone call, and they're going to figure out pretty quickly what's going on, and they can help you in that way. So please don't be afraid to call us. You're not bothering anyone. We're more than happy to come out. So this graph here, the numbers aren't so important because there's a lot of them, but what it's saying is year over year, the internet is being used more against you. So people are using malware. They're using systems on computers against your computer in order to get your information, get you to respond to them, interact with them, in order to get you on the phone and start trying to start that scam with you. It's obviously only going to increase more and more. So it's just important to be vigilant on your computer, on your phone, wherever you're browsing. Make sure you're on a verified website. If you don't know if you're on the right site, show it to someone next to you, show it to a family member, and let them decide. At least help you out. And again, worst case, just call us, and we'll help. So just to give you a preview of the complexity of the people that are trying to scam you, and I'll preface this saying, the scammers are everywhere. We've tracked them down to every part of the globe. But you'll see here in this example, this is Sihanoukville in Cambodia. There's 135 buildings in that picture. They were built to be casinos prior to COVID. Obviously, they weren't running as casinos during COVID, so they became scam centers. So that's more buildings than, or more casinos than in Las Vegas, and those are filled to the brim with people with phones and computers calling you, calling your neighbors, trying to scam you. Fortunately, this one, the Cambodian authorities went in there a while back and made a lot of arrests. But again, they're everywhere. Here is KK Park Casino Complex in Mayawati in Myanmar. It's right across from Thailand. So you'll see this is a satellite image from February 2020, before it was built. There's maybe 3 buildings. This is within the past year. Again, all of these buildings, this is purely built for people to come here, to live here, and to scam you. To make matters worse, a lot of people working at these places are trafficked. They're from China, specific to Southeast Asia. They're from China, and they're being forced to call you. They're given a playbook, and it says, it might say elderly female or young juvenile male, and they go by this playbook to decide what scam they're going to use against you. As you can see, these are 2 news articles just showing the level of it. Basically, the authorities will come get them, and then the countries where they're from won't even take them back because they're involved in these scams. But like I said, a lot of these people are not doing this willingly. That's not to say all of them, but that can be the case. So it's very complex. And again, those are 2 centers in Southeast Asia, but I can guarantee you those are all over the place. There's our non-emergency line. Like everyone here has said, if you're in the middle of a scam, please just call us. We will come out. We will help you. And you're not bothering anyone. So if anyone has any questions for all of us, please feel free, and we'll answer what we can. Yes?
How do you feel about malware and other online, like LifeLock?
LifeLock? So like locking your credit?
So, no, LifeLock that monitors your, like your banks, your credit card, things like that. That's what it does.
Yeah.
So, I guess I have LifeLock. It tells me if anyone looks up my information, it will send me an alert. It's actually called me. I didn't buy the most expensive version of it, but I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any input on how you, if you think that's helpful or not before I go and buy something that's more expensive.
Let me ask you this, is it locking your credit? Are they calling you before you can do anything with your credit? Or it's
No,
just
I
telling you
want-
if someone looks up your name?
No, it's just if somebody looks up my name and if they went into my credit. I locked my credit up myself.
Okay. I mean, it's up to you if you want to upgrade. I would say that if your credit's locked yourself, then whether someone looks you up or not is kind of irrelevant. Because that you probably get, messages that you're being looked up, and all of us are, by someone looking to scam you. But if they look you up and they reach out to you, but you've locked your credit, you've already, you got one piece of protection for you. The rest of it is just having that pamphlet with you by your phone and recognizing if you're being scammed or not, calling us. I mean, if it's doesn't cost you too much and you feel like it's helping, I'd say go for it. But also, I think if you have your credit locked and you're being vigilant on the phone, I don't think it's necessary.
And they have malware programs out there. I'm not too sure about how that works, but I was wondering if you had any idea, like malware on your computer.
You said they have a program for it?
Yeah. Do you know
Oh,
anything
malware
about
protection?
that? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to get it, again, make sure it's a verified source. You're getting it from somewhere that is going to protect your computer as opposed to
Is
scam.
that double doing it with LifeLock?
Does LifeLock offer it?
Is it, so it's two different?
Yeah, that'd be two different things. Yeah. Yep. I mean, again, if it's a verified source, and do you use your computer a lot, or do you?
I do.
Okay, so yeah, it doesn't hurt to have. Again, just double check where you're getting it through. I would honestly go down to Best Buy and speak with someone in person and see what they have to offer, because then now you're not just picking a random one off of Google, and know that you can trust it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Anyone have any stories to share? Any scams? We will not judge you.
Well, I was scammed also years ago,
Okay.
and it was on one of these commercials that say, we can find anyone you want to work for you. And I forget what her name is. It was like an Alice or something. And so I went on her site, and she referred me to a roofer. And he came to the house, and at that time we had a leak, and he was going to fix the leak. And then we decided we wanted to have a standing roof, metal roof put on the house. And he kept sending me a different type of metal roof. And so I wouldn't sign the document because it wasn't the standing seam roof. Now, he still had my deposit, my deposit, but come to find out, the bottom line was he was a scammer, and I wasn't the only one, and he was doing work on other people's homes with no permits, no building permits or anything. And he did go to court, but he kind of basically got a slap in the wrist after scamming like 10 people and getting thousands and thousands of dollars, and then escaped to Florida or someplace. And so we never got justice for it.
Yeah. So that's a perfect example, especially like you said, you used an online site in order to find someone that you could trust, and then that person actually came out and ended up conducting a scam on your house. And that just intertwines what we're talking about that happens on the internet. It can happen in person. When it comes to what happens to them after we catch them, that's out of our hands. But in the end, our goal is to stop it from ever happening. And that's enough for us to be happy with. Yes.
So my husband got a phone call from someone purporting to be his grandson who got in an accident the night before leaving Conrad's. And you know, wanted money to get out of jail or something, I can't remember what. And said he sounded different because he banged his mouth on the steering wheel when he got in the accident. And he didn't want anybody to know, you know, don't tell my mother, I don't want anyone to know. Luckily, my husband called me. And I said, there's no way on earth Sean would have called you.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think we've seen that one just even here in Norwood, I mean, maybe 8 times last year. That happens all the time. But perfect, like, he said, you know what, I don't know about this, and we call someone. And all it took was you. In his mind, you know, someone's been in an accident, someone's hurt, I gotta get what they need. But you said, hey, slow down, you know,
and he
so.
was like, oh, he's never asked me for anything, I really, you know, don't want to let him down. Oh, it's just-
Yeah, so, I mean, perfect. And that's a perfect scenario of kind of stopping it and someone slowing down and just reaching out to anyone. You know, like I said, anyone can call us, but honestly, all it does is take and call your neighbor, a family member, and they're gonna recognize the signs of the scam a lot quicker because you're in the midst of it, you're in the emotion, and they purposely made it so you feel like you need to stay on the line and go on with what they're saying.
What kind of amazed me was that they knew so much. They knew that he was his grandson, because the names are completely different. They knew that we all frequented Conrad's. They just had so much information.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate side of, you know, so much of our information is online. It's great, it can help us, you know, get what we need and get it quickly. At the same time, people, as I showed you earlier, you know, that kind of ties into this where that information is being used against you, and that rate's going up. This 32% on the left here is basically saying that 32% of anything that happens on the internet, on your phone, computer, any website visited is malicious. You know, it's either trying to get data that you have to use it against you, or it's actively working against you. So, again, being vigilant is the most important part. Sir, did you have your hand raised?
Yes. I'm the captain of getting scammed.
Were you here last year?
No,
Oh.
no, I'm not a member here yet. I just moved to Norwood
Okay.
from West Roxbury. And about three and a half years ago, I got a telephone call from a lawyer saying that my grandson, one of my grandkids, was in jail on some kind of a car insurance deal. And right off the bat, I get a little nervous. I start going to, they asked for $7,200 to represent my grandson. I go to the bank. Bank was too busy, I went to another bank. I had them wire $7,200 down to this lawyer. That was number one scam. That was the big one. While I was at the police station, a woman came in, and she's standing right next to me, and the cop says, "Can I help you?" And she says, "Yeah, my father just got a telephone call that his grandson was in jail, and this and that." And I asked her, I said, "And how much did they want from you?" She said, $8,000. I said, "Did you send it?" And she said, "No, that's why I'm here." And the cop looked at me and he said, "Don't feel bad. You didn't do the wrong thing. They're as smart as hell." But that didn't end there. I was scammed by a company after I spoke with Discover Card. I had a bill on my statement, which I questioned, for $460 from PayPal. So the next day, I called up. They don't know anything about it. I had spoken to Discover. They had mentioned that I should get PayPal and my bills would get paid faster or some. I said, "I'm not interested. I'm not interested." Anyway, that's still being handled by Discover. But the biggest scam I ever had in my life took place in the past 7 years.
You don't have to share if you don't want, sir. You've shared a ton, and I really
It's just-
appreciate
it's
that.
just- This one too much. This,
Jimmy?
If you want, we could speak afterwards, but thank you for sharing, and as you heard, obviously, so, I mean, to have to go to the station with the scam and then see another person getting scammed. So, again, it's happening everywhere to everyone, and, you know, don't think that it won't happen to you. And it only helps when people share, because we can understand, you know, what boat we could end up in, and hear what they were told, and kind of learn from that. Yes, ma'am.
On the bright side of things,
There's a bright side.
Norfolk Registry of Deeds set up a program, I think people would like to know about it, to protect the title on your home. And I found out about this a couple of years ago and called Norfolk Registry of Deeds, and a very nice woman helped me sign up to protect the title on your home. People are stealing your property.
Yes.
Your property they're stealing. So all you have to do is get in touch with the Norfolk Registry of Deeds and sign, if you own a home property, and sign up with them. That way, nobody can touch your property unless you're notified. In other words, if someone's trying to steal your property, a scammer,
Take out a
they
mortgage.
will notify you first before they do anything.
That's awesome. We'll get that, we'll look into that and we'll put it up. We'll give you to get up in a flyer or in our slides the next time. Yes.
My friend called me and somebody had put their name on her condo lease. And she didn't know about it. And she went frantic. But it's so easy to have it done. And then she called her lawyer, she called the police. And as it turned out, they kept saying, well, it's something, just a typo error. That's what they told her at the end. But if she didn't look and notice that, if she died, her condo would go to the couple living upstairs.
Yep.
Their name. She knew the name of the people, she didn't really know them. But how can they put their name on your lease, on your deed?
Right.
She got her own lease, and then she went to the police, and then to a lawyer.
Yeah, and that's good. That's another good point.
Yeah.
Just reviewing your documents, reviewing what you have, because again, like you said, if she never looked, she never would have known the name was on there. So, yes.
I walked into my mother-in-law's house one day, many years ago, and she was getting a check for $500 ready to go into the, send out. And I asked her who she was sending it to. She said, this man called and said, if I send him $500, they'll send me back double the amount of money. I had no idea what a scam was in those days, but I knew that she wasn't going to send out the check for $500. So I took the check away from her, and I took away her checkbook. And when my son came in, I told him, and she told him, and he did the same thing. We ended up having to pay all her bills from then on, because otherwise she felt bad. The people that needed money, so he said, never mind, we'll take care of your checkbook and all your bills. Don't worry about it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's part of leaning on other people. I mean, obviously it shouldn't come to you, but you recognized it and you were able to step in. I mean, that's like a low class, I guess I'll say, investment scam. Now today, I mean, it happens a lot with cryptocurrency, but there you have entire websites generated. So, you know, you'll put money into this website and you can watch your money grow as you think is happening, but in reality, it's just a fake blotter. And they've already taken your money. And so it encourages you to throw more in. So that's why we're like the $326,000 we had. That big one was part of that. You'd start with 10 grand on an investment and it looks like it's doing well. So like they kept throwing more in. And then when they say, hey, I want to take my money out, and they say, well, if you pay another $100,000, you can take it out. And that's when people start to realize they're being scammed, because why do you have to pay another $100,000 to take out $300,000? And then they slowly learn that they're not going to be able to take out a single dollar, and that money's long gone. So I guess the early days of the investment scam. Oh yeah. Yeah, just to go over, so, you know, I'm telling you guys call us right away and whatnot, but I guess I haven't gone over what we'll do. So the quicker we get it, the more we can do. So, part of it starts with where does the money go? The quicker we get it, the quicker we can track down, either it goes into cryptocurrency, it goes in a bank account, we can follow it. We have we could possibly freeze it at least, and then maybe even seize it towards the end. We've had some luck, freezing cryptocurrency that has been basically someone who doesn't know about crypto turns their money into cryptocurrency. We're able to follow it. We follow it to Bangladesh, Colombia. We're able to freeze it and eventually seize it and get it back to the victim. It takes a little bit of time, but it's better than nothing, and that's why we want you to come quicker. Same with bank accounts, even if it's not cryptocurrency, we can follow that money and possibly get it back to you, identify a suspect, and get them charged. Ultimately, our goal is to make you whole best we can. So like I said, the quicker reporting, the better.
I just have a curiosity. She doesn't know what crypto is, and I want to know why people want funny money like that.
Okay, so that's what it is, it's funny money.
Does anyone here have cryptocurrency? No. So basically, my advice then is if you hear it, run away, and then you'll never have to worry about it. It's deregulated, it's volatile, and it's being used in scams more than I've seen it used legitimately. So I won't get into what it is. It's just virtual currency, but it's not worth getting into it.
So it has no purpose?
It has a purpose, outside of scams, but I think it's like 50-50 scams, and the other 50% is probably legitimate. But in the end, it's no better than your dollar, so stick with that. And if someone calls any of you and says cryptocurrency, hang up. Even if it's like your brother, tell him to stop getting it too, and then hang up on him. But there's no point to get into it right now. Maybe in 25, 30 years, but not right now.